March 2nd, 2024, 3:14 a.m. A nurse who has spent the last decade helping women bring life into the world is found still, cold, and alone on the floor of a supply closet. Alyssa Monroe was 6 months pregnant, minutes from finishing her shift, and just hours earlier she had been laughing with coworkers about baby names. No alarms, no warnings, just a life cut short inside a hospital that trusted her more than anyone. But the truth behind her final moments doesn't begin with fear. It begins with love. The kind that felt safe at first. The kind that slowly blurred into something she couldn't escape. And the deeper investigators dig, the more one question refuses to fade. Who did Alyssa trust enough to let close and long enough to destroy her? Before we go any further, before we walk you through what truly unfolded, take a moment to subscribe and turn on your notifications. Stories like Alyssa's must be told, and your support helps us keep these voices alive. Now, let's go back to where the nightmare quietly began. Most nurses bolt for the parking lot the moment their shift ends, but Alyssa Monroe stands beside her car for a moment, inhaling the cold evening air like she needs the chill to wake her spirit up. She's 31, slim-framed, shoulders slightly hunched, the way people carry themselves after too many years of emotional weight. At first glance, she looks like any hardworking nurse ending another long day. But the truth is in her eyes, soft, tired, and quietly bruised by a life that hasn't been gentle. The past year has reshaped her more than she admits. Her divorce was final 8 months ago, yet the papers still sit in a folder on top of her fridge because she hasn't found the strength to put them away. Her ex-husband Daniel Monroe loved her once. Or at least the version of her he thought she should be. Their marriage fell apart the way a slow leak empties a boat, quietly, gradually, and long before anyone notices they're sinking. The arguments weren't loud, they were cold. Long silences, missed dinners, promises broken one routine at a time. He wanted a life she couldn't fit into anymore, and she wanted peace Daniel could never give. Her father took the separation harder than she did. A traditional man with strong opinions and even stronger expectations, he believed marriages were supposed to last, no matter what. When Alyssa told him she couldn't stay with Daniel anymore, he didn't yell. He just stared at the floor and whispered, "I thought you were stronger than this." That sentence carved something into her. A quiet ache she carries everywhere she goes. They still speak, but not the same. Every conversation has a layer of hurt sitting underneath it, like a bruise that refuses to fade. Maybe that's why she pours so much of herself into this hospital. Inside St. Breda Medical, she is not the woman who disappointed her father or the wife who walked away. She is strong, steady, needed. She is Nurse Monroe, the one who comforts frightened mothers with a warm hand, the one who cracks soft jokes with exhausted partners, the one who walks into chaos and somehow brings calm with her. On nights like this, with the hallways humming under fluorescent lights, she feels like her life still has purpose. But the moment she clocks out, her world shrinks again. Her apartment is neat, quiet, and heavier than it looks. Along the far wall sits a stack of unopened boxes labeled divorce, bedroom, wedding keepsakes. She tells everyone she just hasn't had time to unpack, but the truth is simpler. She isn't ready to face what's inside. The dining table still has 2 chairs. She keeps them both, even though she eats alone. She keeps the wedding china in bubble wrap because she can't decide whether to donate it or throw it away. She keeps Daniel's last text saved in her phone, not because she misses him, but because letting it go feels like closing a door she's still standing in. She tries not to think about any of that now, as she moves through the hospital one last time before leaving. She walks past the bulletin board, filled with baby photos and thank you cards. The staff lounge smells faintly of microwaved soup. A few nurses wave goodbye, shouting reminders about potlucks and shift swaps. She smiles back, a small, practiced smile, the kind she uses when her heart is somewhere else entirely. As she heads toward the elevator, she hears unfamiliar voices drifting down the corridor. Male voices, accented, layered with a mix of exhaustion and amusement. She frowns slightly, curious. Visitors? Consultants? Then she remembers the email from earlier in the week. 2 neonatal specialists from Dubai were flying in for a training rotation. She turns the corner and sees them. 2 men stand beside the admissions desk, luggage at their feet, the unit administrator flipping through paperwork with the frantic energy of someone who's been waiting all day. One man, tall, composed, sharply dressed, studies the documents with laser focus. This must be Dr. Tariq Al-Fahad. The other, younger, warm-eyed, posture relaxed, looks around the hallway as though taking in every detail. His badge reads Dr. Samir Al-Qasimi. The administrator brightens when she sees Alyssa. Alyssa, perfect timing. These are our visiting consultants. Sam returns first, lifting his head as if he sensed her before he actually saw her. For a moment, everything goes quiet in her mind, not in a dramatic way, just still. His gaze is steady, curious, and unexpectedly gentle, the kind that makes a woman feel seen even when she isn't trying to be. Alyssa offers a polite nod. Welcome to St. Brahim. Tariq responds with a courteous handshake. Samir simply smiles, a small, warm curve that reaches his eyes, and something inside Alyssa shifts just slightly, like a door she didn't know was open. It's nothing more than a greeting, nothing more than a moment. But something in her chest tightens anyway. She steps aside to let them pass, brushing a stray hair behind her ear, suddenly aware of herself in a way she hasn't been in years. Samir lingers half a second too long before following the administrator toward the elevators. Alyssa pretends not to notice. As she continues down the hall, unaware that he glances back once more, something unspoken settles into the air. A tiny spark she doesn't feel yet, but one that will soon pull her into a story she isn't prepared for. Tonight, she is just a nurse ending her shift. A woman recovering from a broken marriage. A daughter trying to earn back her father's approval. But this ordinary walk down the corridor, this ordinary introduction, is the moment her life begins to change. And she has no idea what that glance from Dr. Samir Al-Qasimi will one day cost her. 2 days into their rotation, the neonatology wing feels different. Lighter, warmer, almost as if someone cracked open a window after a long winter. And if you ask the nurses why, most of them would mention the same thing. The new consultant with the gentle eyes and the kind smile. But for Alyssa, that warmth comes from a place she isn't ready to admit. She sees it for the first time during an evening shift when a distressed mother goes into early labor. The room is buzzing, monitors beeping, staff rushing, uncertainty hanging in the air. Alyssa moves with her usual calm, helping the mother breathe through waves of fear. She's focused, steady, grounding, then Samir steps in. His presence doesn't replace hers, it blends with it. He speaks softly, reassures the mother in a tone that almost mirrors Alyssa's, and together they navigate the crisis like two musicians improvising in perfect harmony. When the baby's heartbeat stabilizes and the tension breaks, their eyes meet for just a second. A small, private second, and something unspoken flickers between them. After the emergency settles, he catches her in the hallway, hands tucked into his coat pockets. "You're good at this," he says, "not just the medical part, the human part." Alyssa laughs quietly, brushing off the compliment. She never knows what to do with kindness. "It's my job," she answers softly. "No," he replies, shaking his head. "Your job is separate. What you did in there, that's you." It's a simple sentence, but for a woman who's been overlooked, undervalued, and left behind, it lands deeper than he realizes. Over the next few days, their interactions accumulate the way tiny sparks eventually become a fire. A comment here, a smile there, a lingering glance when he thinks she isn't looking. Alyssa starts noticing little things about him, the way he pushes his sleeves up to his elbows when he's thinking, the way his accent softens when he speaks gently to patients, the way he listens, really listens, when she talks about something that matters. And Samir notices things too, things no one else pays attention to. The way she tucks loose hair behind her ear when she's nervous. The way she hesitates before clocking out as if she doesn't want to go home. The way her laughter sounds when she forgets she's supposed to be sad. One night, during a slower shift, they find themselves alone in the staff lounge. A vending machine hums in the background. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. He asks, "Do you ever take a break?" She smirks. "If I sit, I fall asleep." "Then sit," he says, pulling out a chair. "I'll keep you awake." She laughs, a real laugh this time, not the practiced one she gives patients, and sits across from him. He tells her a story about getting lost in a Dubai hospital on his first day as a resident. She shares how she once tripped over a birthing ball and nearly crashed into the chief nursing officer. The conversation flows so easily that Alyssa forgets she's talking to a visiting consultant she barely knows. It feels like she's talking to someone who's been in her life for years. When their break ends, she feels something she hasn't felt in a long, long time. A gentle tug toward someone. A feeling she thought she was done with. By the second week of his stay, their connection deepens in ways neither of them speaks aloud. They start sharing coffee during early morning rounds, at first by chance, then by choice. He always brings hers just right. 2 creams, no sugar. She notices he takes his black on the days he's tired, and with honey on the days he wants to feel better. They begin exchanging messages on work tablets, harmless at first. Room 12 needs a reassessment. Are you okay? You looked distracted earlier. Did you ever finish your lunch? Little things, careful things, but meaningful. Soon those messages become something else. I like talking to you. Tonight was easier because you were here. You hide your sadness well, but I see it. Alyssa's heartbeat shifts each time her screen lights up. She tries to ignore it. She fails. And then it happens. The moment that pulls them out of coworkers and into something neither of them is ready for. It's late, almost 1 a.m. The floor is quiet. Only 2 mothers are in active labor, both stable. Samer catches her sitting alone by the window in the staff break area, staring out at the empty parking lot. He walks over slowly, as if afraid to disturb the fragile stillness around her. You look like you're carrying the whole hospital tonight, he says softly. She exhales. Some days feel heavier. He sits beside her. Not too close, not too far. You don't talk much about yourself. There's not much to tell. I don't believe that. Something inside her cracks. A small fracture in the wall she's built since her divorce. She tells him about her marriage. Not in detail, not in bitterness, just the truth. It ended before I realized it had ended. He listens with a gentleness that almost hurts. I'm sorry, he says. You deserved someone who showed up for you. When she turns her head toward him, he's already looking at her. The air between them changes. Not loudly, not dramatically, but undeniably. He leans in, just a fraction, giving her all the time in the world to pull away. She doesn't. Their lips meet softly. A stolen moment. A quiet mistake. A choice she will replay for months. When they pull back, both of them know the line they've crossed cannot be uncrossed. But neither apologizes. Their affair doesn't explode. It unfolds. Gently, secretly, naturally. Stolen kisses in the medication room, whispers in dark corners, late-night laughter that feels too intimate, lingering touches behind closed doors. It fills Alyssa's emptiness with something warm, something alive. She begins to feel wanted again, not out of obligation or routine, but out of genuine desire. For the first time since leaving her marriage, she feels like she isn't invisible. But even when she's happiest, something in her chest knows the truth. He can't stay. Samer talks about Dubai with longing, about his family, his responsibilities, his life overseas. He never promises a future. He never pretends he will. Alyssa tells herself she can handle that. She tells herself she won't fall too deeply. She tells herself this time will be different. She's wrong. 6 weeks into the affair, she stares at a pregnancy test in her bathroom. Positive, clear as day. Her hands shake as she thinks about telling him. But before she gets the chance, Samer walks into the staff lounge 2 days later, with a casual smile and the news that shatters her. I'm leaving next week. My rotation got cut short. He says it warmly, like he assumes she'll be happy for him. He pats her hand as if their connection is just a pleasant memory. He doesn't notice the way her breath hitches. He has no idea she's carrying a part of him. His goodbye is gentle, effortless, unaware. But hers isn't. She watches him walk down the hallway toward the elevators, hand dragging along the railing, suitcase rolling behind him. She waits until he disappears. Then she goes to her car, closes the door, and lets the tears fall onto her steering wheel. I shouldn't have fallen for him, she whispers into the darkness. But she did, and that mistake is about to change everything. 3 weeks have passed since Samer wheeled his suitcase down that hallway and out of Alyssa's life, but the echo of his departure hasn't faded. It lingers in small, sharp moments. In the way her eyes drift toward the elevators at the end of a shift. In the way she glances at her phone even when she knows he won't call. In the way her hand rests over her stomach a second longer every time she changes in the locker room. still getting used to the fact that she is no longer just responsible for herself. She doesn't say the word pregnant out loud very often. When she does, it feels fragile on her tongue, like it might shatter if she leans on it too hard. Her days become a routine of quiet survival. She goes to work, she takes care of her patients, she schedules her first prenatal visits, sits alone in waiting rooms, and listens to a heartbeat that both comforts and terrifies her. This baby is hers, not theirs. Not theirs in any real sense, because there's no they anymore. Just her and this tiny life she never planned, but refuses to resent. When people at work notice she's more tired than usual, she blames the shifts. She doesn't correct them when they assume she's just overworked. Only one friend, Brianna, knows the truth, and even she doesn't know the whole story. In that space between heartbreak and adaptation, Alyssa stops looking at anyone too closely. She avoids eye contact with new staff, keeps conversations professional, turns down invitations to after-shift drinks she might have said yes to 6 months earlier. She is trying to become small again, to tuck herself into a life where nothing can touch her. That's when she starts noticing Tariq. He's been on the unit since the beginning, of course, but he never occupied much space in her thoughts. Where Samar was sunshine and easy smiles, Tariq was storm clouds held tightly together, composed, intense, always focused on his charts. He walked with purpose, spoke only when necessary, and carried himself with the kind of controlled confidence that made some nurses straighten their posture when he passed. If she had to describe him before, she would have used words like serious, distant, intimidating. Now something about him feels different. It begins with small gestures. One night, as she reaches for a chart on the counter, he places it in her hands before she can grasp it, as if he anticipated what she needed. Another time, he quietly refills her empty water bottle during a long shift without saying anything about it, leaving it on the desk where she stands. He doesn't flirt, he doesn't hover. He just notices. The way she winces when she bends too quickly, the way she drifts to the side of the hallway to rest her back, the way she rubs her temple when migraines creep in. One evening, near the end of a grueling 12-hour shift, she finds herself sitting alone in a consultation room, staring at her hands. She's not crying, but she's close. The weight of everything, the baby, the divorce, the guilt she still carries about Samar not knowing, presses against her chest. The door clicks softly, and she looks up, startled. Tariq stands there, a file in hand, an apology already in his eyes. "I didn't know someone was in here," he says quietly. She starts to stand. "I'll go. It's fine." He shakes his head. "No, please, you look like you needed the room more than I do." There's no teasing in his voice, no pity, just simple observation. He sets the file on the small desk, then leans against the wall, leaving plenty of space between them. He doesn't ask what's wrong. He doesn't push. He just stands there in silence for a moment, letting her gather herself. "You're usually the strong one," he says finally. "The one keeping everyone else together. Who does that for you?" The question hits harder than she's prepared for. She tries to shrug it off. "I'm okay. Just a long week." He watches her, his gaze steady but not invasive. Long weeks don't make people stare at their hands like they're trying to remember how to hold on. It's the way he says it, calm, gentle, observational, that disarms her. She doesn't tell him everything, but she tells him more than she meant to. She admits her divorce was finalized recently. She admits she's been adjusting to living alone. She doesn't mention the pregnancy yet, but she does say, sometimes it feels like the people who said they'd stay never meant it. He nods, as if he understands more than she said aloud. "People are not good at staying," he replies. "They're good at promising. Staying is harder." There is no judgment in his tone, just reality. From that night forward, their dynamic shifts. Their conversations don't start with jokes or flirting. They start with observations, shared frustrations, stories from their respective pasts. She learns he left a comfortable position in Dubai because he wanted the challenge of working abroad, to prove himself without the safety net of his family name. He learns she left a marriage that looked perfect from the outside, but left her feeling unseen inside her own home. They compare notes about strict parents and expectations they never felt able to meet. They trade stories of nights they couldn't sleep, His because of the weight of responsibility, hers because of the weight of regret. Slowly, she stops feeling like he's just another visiting doctor passing through. He feels like someone standing at the same kind of crossroads she once stood at, wrestling with the same quiet questions. Who am I if I'm not what other people need me to be? The first time she tells him she's pregnant is not planned. It happens on a rainy afternoon, the kind where patients are moody, staff are stretched thin, and the world outside the hospital feels distant and blurred. Alyssa leans over a chart too quickly, and a sharp pain pulls across her abdomen. She winces, hand going instinctively to her stomach. Tariq sees it from down the hall and is beside her before she can straighten fully. "Are you all right?" he asks, his voice low. "Yeah," she says, forcing a smile. "I just moved too fast." His eyes drop to her hand, still resting protectively against her body. He studies her for a beat longer than usual. "You've seemed different lately," he says carefully, "more tired, more guarded." Then, almost as an afterthought, "Is there something I should know, as a colleague, as a friend?" She hesitates. This is the moment she's been avoiding, the moment of letting someone else into this fragile circle of truth. But something about his calm, the steadiness in his gaze, the way he said friend like he meant it, loosens the knot in her throat. "I'm pregnant," she says, the word finally landing like a stone in water. It's early still, but yeah. For a long second he doesn't react at all. No flinch, no shock, just a measured inhale. "Is that why you've been trying to do everything alone?" he asks. She laughs weakly. "I've been doing everything alone for a long time." He nods, the faintest hint of compassion softening his eyes. "Congratulations," he says. "Really, whatever the situation is, this is still something good." Tears sting the back of her eyes, more from relief than sadness. She was bracing for judgment, for assumptions, for questions she wasn't ready to answer. Instead, she gets something else: acceptance. Over the next few weeks, Tariq's support becomes more tangible. He brings her snacks when shifts run long, insisting she eats. He reminds her to sit when she's been standing too much. He covers a call light so she can finish charting without rushing. He doesn't announce these gestures. He doesn't hold them over her. He just does them. To Alyssa, it feels like the stability she's been craving. A man who doesn't run at the first sign of emotional weight. A man who sees the full picture, the divorce, the loneliness, the baby, and doesn't step back. She starts sharing more of herself with him, her fear of raising a child alone, her complicated relationship with her father, the shame she still carries from a marriage that ended in disappointment. Tariq listens with the attentiveness of someone who has known loss in his own way, though he rarely goes into detail about himself. What she doesn't notice, not at first, is how carefully he stores everything she says. He pays attention to her patterns, when she likes to arrive, which routes she uses through the hospital, where she rests when she's overwhelmed. He remembers the exact times she usually takes her breaks, the days she visits her obstetrician, the nights she goes straight home instead of running errands. When she mentions, in passing, that she feels safest in routine, he smiles slightly and says, "Routine can be a good thing. It makes life predictable." At first it feels like care, like someone finally understands that she is tired of chaos, tired of change, tired of being blindsided. She leans into that reliability, grateful for any piece of her life that doesn't feel fragile. But slowly, the line between comfort and control begins to blur. He comments when she leaves work later than usual. "You shouldn't be driving this tired," he says, half concerned, half admonishing. He questions her when she seems distant. "Did someone upset you?" "You know you can talk to me before anyone else," he reminds her. He notices if she talks more to another doctor one day, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly before he smooths it over with a joke. Alyssa doesn't register these things as warning signs. Not yet. To someone who has been abandoned, this level of attention feels like proof that she finally matters to someone again. That she isn't easy to walk away from. Late one night, she sits at her kitchen table with her journal open, the one friend that has known all of her secrets since she was a teenager. She writes about Daniel, about Samer, about the baby growing inside her, and the confusing calm she feels when Tariq is near. She writes about his steadiness, his reassurance, the way he seems to anchor her. Her pen hovers before she finishes the entry. Maybe this time, she writes slowly, someone won't leave. Alyssa stands in the dim hospital bathroom, hand pressed against the curve of her stomach, watching her reflection with quiet disbelief. The bump is unmistakable now, small but present, rounding her silhouette beneath her scrubs. She traces the outline gently, as if learning the shape of a life she still can't fully understand. Every week brings new shifts in her body. Tenderness, cravings, exhaustion, waves of emotion she can't control. Sometimes she cries for no reason. Sometimes she laughs too easily. Sometimes she feels everything at once. Hope, fear, guilt, longing, all fighting for space inside her ribcage. She wishes the father question were simple. She wishes her heart were simple. She wishes she were simple. But nothing about her world is simple anymore. Samer's memory comes to her in flashes. Not in the way people remember heartbreak, but in the way they remember warmth. The way he smiled with his eyes before he smiled with his mouth. The way he leaned against counters like he was settling into her presence. The way he made even the dullest shifts feel like a small adventure. She knows he's gone. She knows he didn't promise her anything. She knows she should move on. But hormones have their own logic. Loneliness has its own gravity. And some memories attach themselves to the body, not the mind. So when she lies awake at night, staring at the ceiling, the ghost of Samer's laughter drifts in and sits with her. And that ghost is dangerous. She keeps these feelings tight against her chest, telling no one. Not even Brianna, not even her diary. Because writing something down makes it real, and she can't handle more real right now. Meanwhile, Tariq grows deeper into her life with each passing day. What began as gentle support now wraps around her like a thick blanket. Warm, comforting, but sometimes too heavy to move under. He shows up for her in ways she didn't realize she needed until he started doing them. Bringing meals without being asked, insisting on walking her to her car after late shifts, reminding her to rest, to hydrate, to slow down. At first, it feels like relief. Then slowly, it becomes expectation. Their connection evolves in silence, slipping from emotional closeness into something more physical, more complicated. The night it happens isn't planned. She doesn't enter the moment intending for anything to unfold. It begins with a feeling, the kind of raw need that comes from pregnancy hormones colliding with months of vulnerability. She wants comfort. She wants to feel held. She wants the sense of safety she hasn't had in a long time. And Tariq is there. In the quiet shadows of her apartment, his presence feels steady, grounding, his hands careful, his voice low and patient. She tells herself it's a mistake. She tells herself it's temporary. She tells herself she'll stop it before it becomes something real. But she doesn't. Not that night, not the next, not the week after. Soon their secret affair becomes the thing she depends on, a mix of closeness and confusion she can't untangle. Tariq's attentiveness soothes her on days when the world feels too heavy. He listens when she spirals. He takes the weight off her hands when she's overwhelmed. Yet even in these moments, Samer's absence stings like a bruise she can't stop touching. Alyssa never names the father. Not to anyone, not even to herself. When the doctor asks at her prenatal appointment, she simply says it's complicated. When Brianna gently probes, Alyssa changes the subject. And in her diary, the one place she promised herself honesty, she dances around the truth, writing only about her fear, never about names. Keeping that secret becomes another layer of stress, another knot tightening behind her ribs. The guilt is overwhelming. She knows she owes the truth to someone. If not to Samer, then at least to herself. But she can't bring herself to face it. Some truths feel too sharp to hold. Then, one morning, everything inside her shifts. She's sitting at her kitchen table, stirring oatmeal she doesn't want, when her phone buzzes. She almost ignores it, until she sees the name on the screen. Samer. Her breath catches so fast she drops the spoon. The message is simple, short, almost careless. Hope you're doing well. Saw something today that reminded me of you. How's the unit? Just that, nothing more. Nothing that acknowledges what they shared. Nothing that hints he suspects anything. Just a simple message from a man living his life on the other side of the world, unaware that hers fractured the day he left. Alyssa stares at the text until tears blur the screen. She doesn't reply. She deletes the notification. But the ghost of that message clings to her for days, whispering what-ifs, pressing old bruises, stirring emotions she thought she'd buried. And Tariq feels it. He notices her distraction, her hesitation, the softness that returns to her eyes. Not because of him, but because of someone else. The change is subtle, but he catches it instantly. One evening after a shift, he asks, "Are you all right? You've been distant." She forces a smile. "Just tired." He doesn't believe her. He studies her a little too long, his gaze lingering in a way that makes her chest tighten. For the first time, she senses something behind his calm, something sharp, something territorial. But then he blinks it away, apologizes, softens his tone, makes a joke to lighten the moment. Still, the image of that flash in his eyes stays with her. Throughout the next month, she lives between two worlds, one tied to a man who left without looking back, the other tied to a man who refuses to let her drift away. She wants security, but she wants freedom. She wants comfort, but she wants space. She wants Tariq's stability, but she misses Samer's spark. And the conflict grows louder as her belly grows rounder. She talks to no one about this. She keeps it inside, letting the pressure simmer. By the time she starts her third trimester, her emotions feel stretched thinner than her skin. One night, feeling overwhelmed, she sits on her bed with her diary open. Her pen hovers over the page as she tries to steady her shaking hands. She writes slowly, carefully, afraid of seeing her truth in ink. "I don't know what I want anymore, or who I can trust." She closes the diary before the ink dries, presses it to her chest, and lets her tears fall quietly, unsure whether she's crying for the baby, the men, or herself. For a while, Alyssa convinces herself she has found a rhythm. Her pregnancy is moving steadily. Her symptoms are manageable, and Tariq's presence, though overwhelming at times, seems to anchor her. But like most shifts in life, the change doesn't arrive loudly. It slips in quietly, like a draft under a closed door, unnoticed until the room is already cold. At first, the differences in Tariq's behavior seem harmless. He asks her what time she's leaving work, then follows up with, "Let me know you got home safely." He checks her schedule, "So I can help plan your breaks better." He questions whether she's resting enough, whether she's eating enough, whether the baby might be stressed. He frames everything as concern, and Alyssa accepts it gratefully. Even tenderly. She tells herself she's lucky someone cares this much. But gentle concern starts turning into monitoring. It starts with comments, subtle ones. "You were gone longer than you said. Why didn't you text back? I was worried. That friend, Brianna, I'm not sure she understands what you need right now." He says these things with that same steady voice, so controlled she sometimes thinks she's imagining the pressure behind his words. When she brushes his comments aside, he smiles and lets it go. But the next day, the questions come again. Slightly sharper, slightly more pointed. Alyssa tells herself it's cultural differences, a different way of showing care. Maybe he's simply protective because of the pregnancy. Maybe this is what support looks like in another part of the world. She rationalizes every edge she sees. When you're lonely, your mind can turn warning signs into comfort. But her friends start noticing. One afternoon in the staff room, Brianna watches Alyssa silencing her phone for the third time, sliding it under her thigh as if she's hiding something. "You okay?" Brianna asks gently. Alyssa forces a smile. "Just tired." Tired doesn't make you jump every time your phone lights up. Alyssa shrugs it off. It's nothing. But it isn't nothing. Not really. Inside her chest, guilt thumps like a heartbeat she can't steady. She knows her life is tangled. One man who left without knowing he left more behind, and another who stayed so closely she sometimes feels like she can't breathe. Still, she tells everyone she's fine, because saying she isn't fine would mean untangling parts of her life she's not ready to face. The first time Tariq asks to see her phone, it's casual, almost playful. "You're always smiling at your screen," he says with a light chuckle. "Let me see what's making you happy." She laughs it off. "It's just a baby app and memes. I promise it's nothing interesting." He doesn't push, not then, but something in his eyes lingers, something curious, something searching. A few days later, when she steps away to take a call, she comes back to find him holding her phone lightly in his hand, screen still lit. He smiles as if he did nothing wrong. "It buzzed. I just checked to make sure it wasn't urgent." Her chest tightens. "I would have checked it." He nods, unbothered. "Of course, just looking out for you." She doesn't argue. She tells herself she's overreacting, that she's emotional, that she's pregnant, and hormonal, and everything feels louder than it is. But deep inside, something uneasy curls into her stomach. Over time, the moments add up. He becomes irritated when she doesn't answer his texts quickly. He wants to know where she is, even when she's just running to the vending machine. He comments on her coworkers in ways that feel like warnings disguised as observations. You talk to Dr. Collins a lot. Are you sure he respects boundaries? That patient asked for you by name. Don't let them drain you. You're too generous with people. They take advantage of women like you. He always ends with, I just care about you. And she believes him. She wants to believe him, because believing him is easier than facing how complicated her life has become. But the breaking point doesn't come from something loud, it comes from something small. A moment so quick it barely lasts 5 seconds. A moment that tells Alyssa everything she needs to know, without saying a word. It happens on a quiet Thursday evening. She and Tariq are sitting in the staff lounge. She's scrolling through old photos, looking for a picture of a patient's newborn she promised to show him. Her thumb swipes too far, and suddenly, there it is. A photo taken months earlier, before the pregnancy was visible, before Samar left, before everything changed. She's laughing in the picture, head thrown back, eyes bright. Samar is beside her, smiling with the kind of ease that once made her heart ache. It's a candid shot Brianna took during a late-night break, back when life felt uncomplicated for a brief moment. Tariq freezes. His hand, mid-reach toward a snack wrapper, goes still. His jaw tightens, not dramatically, but enough for Alyssa's chest to constrict. His eyes narrow the tiniest bit, scanning the screen. The silence between them shifts, heavy, sharp, inevitable. Who is that? He asks. His tone is calm, too calm. The kind of calm that hides a storm beneath it. She stumbles over her words. Just a colleague. It was a long time ago. His expression doesn't change. If anything, it becomes even quieter. So quiet it frightens her. Not because he raises his voice, but because he doesn't. He hands her the phone back without a word, but the air between them is no longer soft. It feels brittle, on edge, like glass that might shatter if she breathes too hard. She pretends not to feel it. Pretends everything is fine. Pretends she didn't just see something in him she wishes she hadn't. But that night, when she returns home, she opens her diary with trembling fingers. Her handwriting comes out jagged, uneven. He looked at me like he already knew the truth, and like he hated me for it. She closes the journal before the ink dries, because if she keeps writing, she knows the next sentence will scare her even more. The maternity floor is unusually loud tonight. Call lights blinking nonstop, contractions overlapping, and nurses moving from room to room with the kind of instinct that comes only from exhaustion and routine. Alyssa welcomes the chaos. Busy nights keep her from thinking. Busy nights keep her from feeling the shift in Tariq's behavior over the past week. Busy nights give her space from the guilt she refuses to name. Around 1:20 a.m., a newborn develops complications and the unit scrambles. Files are pulled fast, orders placed faster. In the rush, Alyssa grabs a tablet from the nurse's station, not her assigned one, because her hands are full and there's no time to sort through devices. She swipes it open, trying to access a medication record, but the screen doesn't show a standard chart. Instead, it displays a partially opened patient file marked with a gold header she's never seen before. International Client Record, Level 3 access required. Alyssa frowns. They don't have international clients. Not here. Not in a small Midwestern hospital where most patients live within 20 miles. She tries to exit, but the document freezes for a moment, long enough for several entries to flash before the screen responds. Conflicting gestational ages. Incorrect patient initials. Medical notes written in 2 different fonts. And then her eyes land on something that sends a ripple through her entire body. T. Al-Fahad, M.D. Signed on a procedure she knows their hospital isn't certified to perform. She stares at the screen, confusion tightening into something colder. Her pulse thumps hard in her throat. She scrolls down just enough to see more. Transport notes to an offshore clinic, a billing code that doesn't exist in their system, and fetal measurements that contradict the timeline in the file. None of it makes sense. A nurse calls her name. Alyssa, room 3118 needs you. She jumps, nearly dropping the tablet, and fumbles to close the file. Her hands shake so violently she has to steady the device against her leg. When she finally exits the screen, she shoves the tablet back onto the desk as if it's hot enough to burn her. But the fear doesn't leave. It clings to her, humming under her skin for the rest of the shift. Morning arrives slowly. The hall's quiet, the adrenaline fades, and then he appears. Tariq stands by the medication room door, arms crossed loosely, expression unreadable. He's too calm, the kind of calm she has learned to fear without admitting it. "Long night," he says softly. Alyssa nods, trying to keep her voice steady. Very long. He studies her, not her face, her eyes. It feels like he's searching for something. "What did you see on the tablet?" he asks. Her breath catches. What do you mean?" He tilts his head, smiling gently, but something in that smile feels wrong. Almost rehearsed. "You opened a restricted file. Those records aren't for general staff." Alyssa's chest tightens. She forces her voice into a whisper. "I don't know what that was. I didn't understand it. I closed it right away." Tariq holds her gaze for a beat too long. Then, he steps forward and places a hand on her shoulder with a tenderness that feels like a trap. "Good. Some files are complicated. Misinterpretation can cause unnecessary worry." She nods, but fear curls up inside her like a fist. He leaves moments later, walking down the hall with the same steady stride, as if their exchange meant nothing. But it meant everything. Over the next few days, the tension inside Alyssa grows, even though she tries desperately to convince herself she overreacted. Still, she can't shake the unease. Not when she sees him typing alone in the physician's lounge long after his shift ends. Not when he watches her interactions with other staff too closely. Not when he asks, in subtle ways, what she was doing at certain hours on certain nights. Her mind races with possibilities she doesn't want to imagine. On Thursday afternoon, while sitting in her car before work, she decides to protect herself. Quietly, carefully, she starts documenting everything, not in obvious ways, but small ones. A screenshot of the file name, a photo of the tablet login screen, a voice memo describing his tone when he questioned her, a vague diary entry about a mistake she wishes she didn't make. But 2 days later, she opens her phone and freezes. The screenshot folder is empty. Her voice notes are gone. The diary app shows a new lock screen she didn't set. A chill crawls slowly down her spine. Alyssa tries to tell herself she misfiled things, that pregnancy brain is real, that she's simply overwhelmed. But deep inside, she knows better. She knows because the deletions appear too targeted. Only the items tied to that night are missing. And somehow, every time she tries to steady herself, Tariq appears with the exact words needed to corner her fear while pretending to comfort it. "You've been distracted. You're tense lately. You should talk to me if something is bothering you." His voice is soft. His words are not. They press in around her, like he knows there's a crack forming, and he's determined to reach whatever is underneath. June 13th, 2023. 9:42 p.m. Alyssa sits in her kitchen, hands trembling, tea untouched, the room silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. The weight of the past 2 weeks sits heavy on her chest. She picks up her phone. She hesitates. Then she calls the one person who knows her heart well enough to hear the truth beneath silence. When Brianna answers, Alyssa's voice cracks before she can form a sentence. "I think I saw something I wasn't supposed to see," she whispers. Her breath trembles, and I think he knows I did. Brianna doesn't speak at first. She just listens to the sound of Alyssa's fear, a fear neither of them yet knows will change everything. By late June, Alyssa is moving through the world the way a person does when their spirit starts whispering warnings their mind can't fully explain. Fear doesn't come to her in a dramatic moment. It arrives slowly, settling into her life in little pieces she almost ignores. The way she double-checks the hallway before stepping into it. The way she pauses at the entrance of a dark room before switching on the light. The way her pulse jumps at the sound of footsteps behind her, even when they belong to someone harmless. Almost every shift now begins with her finding a new place to park. It used to be muscle memory. 3rd row, under the old lamp. Close enough for safety, but far enough that she could walk off the stress of the day. But now she drives around the lot until something feels right, even if she can't say why. Some mornings she chooses the back row, other mornings the far left corner, sometimes the staff garage even when she hates how hot it gets. It isn't about convenience anymore. It's about survival. Small, quiet survival. Inside the hospital, she changes her habits too. She switches routes between wings. She avoids empty corridors during night shifts. She times her breaks differently. She stops lingering at the nurse's station. These adjustments are gentle enough to hide from others, but not from the one person she wishes wouldn't notice. Tariq notices everything. One day, she passes by him in the hallway, and before she can even greet him, he says softly, "You walked in from the south lot today." His tone isn't angry. It isn't even curious. It's observant in a way that makes her stomach flutter with unease. Alyssa forces a small laugh. It was closer to the entrance I needed. He studies her face in silence, too long, too deeply, before nodding. Interesting. And just like that, her throat tightens, because nothing she does feels invisible anymore. Her diary becomes her refuge, the only place she lets her fears spill freely. June 23rd. I don't know why I feel like someone's behind me, even when the hallway is empty. June 25th. He shows up everywhere. Not angry, not loud, just there. June 26th. I can't tell if I'm imagining things or if this is the beginning of something I don't know how to stop. The writing looks different now. Rushed, uneven, letters pressed too hard as though she's trying to push the fear out of herself. She hides the diary in new places each night. One day under her bed, the next behind a stack of baby clothes she hasn't unpacked yet. She doesn't want anyone to find it. She doesn't want him to find it. It gets harder to pretend nothing is wrong. Alyssa will be charting at the computer when she suddenly feels a presence behind her. And when she turns, Tariq is standing closer than normal, watching her screen with an unreadable expression. She will be leaving a patient room and nearly bump into him because he's waiting directly outside the door. She will take a different hallway to avoid him, only to find him walking from the opposite direction, as if he already knew she'd take that path. None of it is loud. None of it is dramatic. But all of it feels intentional. And that's what scares her the most. The sudden quietness that surrounds every encounter, like he's listening for the part of her heart that still trusts him. She tries to talk herself down. She tells herself she is pregnant, hormonal, overly sensitive. She tells herself he's just concerned, maybe too concerned, but still harmless. She tells herself she's imagining patterns where there are none. But deep inside, a louder truth pulses steady. She doesn't feel safe. One evening, as she walks toward the supply room, she hears footsteps behind her, steady, slow, rehearsed. She glances back and sees Tariq, hands in his pockets, walking with the kind of ease that suggests he's in no rush. But his eyes are fixed on her, almost like he's waiting for her to speak first. When they finally reach the corner, he says quietly, "We should talk, alone." Her chest tightens. She forces a polite smile and lies about needing to check on a patient. She slips into the nearest room, closing the door before he has the chance to reply. She stands there, breathing too fast, her hand pressed against her belly as if shielding her child from something she can't explain. The thought of reporting him crosses her mind. Once, twice, then every night for a week. She imagines walking into the administration office, telling them she feels unsafe, but then she imagines the consequences. He isn't just a visiting doctor. He comes from a world she doesn't fully understand. A world tied to important people, private cases, wealthy patients who fly in under the radar. She isn't naive. If she accuses the wrong man without solid proof, she knows how fast the blame could turn on her. The pregnant divorcee, emotional and overwhelmed. So she swallows the truth, and the truth swallows her. July 3rd, 2023, 10:26 p.m. Alyssa is lying in bed, lights off, hoping sleep will come if she keeps her phone face down. A soft buzz breaks the quiet. She assumes it's Brianna checking in again. One swipe, one message, no name, no photo, just 5 words staring back at her. Don't open files that aren't yours. She freezes, her heartbeat stutters, her breath stops midway. She reads it again and again. A cold wave moves through her body, slow, heavy, undeniable. Someone knows, someone was watching, someone wants her silence. And for the first time since this began, Alyssa feels the terrifying truth settle inside her. She is no longer imagining the danger, she is living inside it. July 9th, 2023, 8:56 p.m. The hospital parking lot is quiet, the kind of quiet that feels unnatural for a summer night. Alyssa sits in her car far longer than she should, hands resting on the steering wheel, forehead pressed gently against it, as if she's gathering the strength to walk inside. She's exhausted, but not the kind exhaustion a nap could fix. This is the kind that lives in the bones, the kind that comes from carrying fear alone. When she finally steps out, her movements are small, reserved. She pulls her scrubs top gently over her belly and whispers something no one else can hear, as though she's trying to soothe the baby or herself. By the time she reaches the main entrance, she's already wearing the mask her coworkers have grown used to, a soft smile that never quite reaches her eyes. And they notice it tonight. "Hey, you okay? Rough day already? You look like you haven't slept." She brushes them off with quiet answers and quick nods, the kind that politely shut down conversation without inviting concern. She can't let them see what's happening under the surface. She can't let anyone carry the weight she hasn't dared to speak aloud. Tonight, Alyssa is a woman bracing for something she can't fully explain. Only feel. The shift moves slowly at first. Vitals, charting, checking in on mothers who can't sleep, fixing blankets, adjusting pillows, offering warmth and reassurance in the gentle voice she's known for. But even while she works, her eyes keep drifting to the hallway. Her ears stay tuned to footsteps. Her breaths shorten every time her phone vibrates. By 1:30 a.m., her heartbeat won't slow down. By 2 a.m., she keeps glancing over her shoulder. By 2:20 a.m., she is checking the clock every few minutes, as if time itself is warning her about what's coming. Coworkers offer to help her with tasks, but she declines each time, insisting she's fine. She isn't fine. She hasn't been fine for weeks, but she's mastered the art of hiding it. Tonight, though, hiding gets harder. 2:40 a.m., her phone buzzes, a soft single vibration she feels all the way up her spine. She's at the nurse's station, flipping through a newborn chart, but the sound pulls her attention instantly. She turns the phone over, expecting another check-in from Brianna. Instead, her face drains of color. The message is short, cold, delivered with the precision of someone who knows exactly how fear works. "We're not finished." That's all it says. No name, no number she recognizes, just the same tone as the warning she received days earlier. Alyssa's breath catches. She closes the message so quickly her hand trembles. For several seconds, she just sits there staring at the floor, pulse thudding in her ears. She tries to swallow the panic rising inside her chest, but it's too big, too heavy, too real. She stands abruptly, mumbling something about needing to get supplies, and walks toward the back corridor, the one she usually avoids because it's dim and too isolated. But right now, she doesn't want to be seen. She doesn't want anyone to ask her why she looks like she's about to cry. She just needs a moment alone to breathe. 2:57 a.m. Alyssa steps into the corridor behind the storage room. It's the only area on the floor where the cameras don't reach, a blind spot the staff always complains about. The air feels colder here, heavier, as if the walls themselves know what is coming. She leans against the shelf for support and closes her eyes, trying to quiet the trembling in her hands. She whispers, "Please, just let me get through tonight." Her voice is barely audible, soft enough that only the walls hear her. 3:00. The hallway doesn't stay empty. A figure turns the corner at the far end, masked, gloved, dressed in dark scrubs that don't reflect the light. They move slowly at first, then with certainty, steps measured and deliberate. Not rushed, not panicked, as if they know exactly where she is and exactly what they came to do. Alyssa doesn't hear them at first. She's too focused on steadying her breath. But when she finally senses someone behind her, she turns instinctively. There is no scream, no shout, no chance to run. It happens too quickly. A hand reaches out, covering her mouth. Another presses forward with force she never expected. Alyssa's eyes widen, shock, betrayal, recognition, but the sound never leaves her throat. The supply closet absorbs everything. No thud, no crash, no struggle loud enough to draw attention. Just the soft, devastating collapse of a woman who trusted the wrong person at the worst possible time. Inside that small room, the fluorescent light flickers once, as if the world itself flinches. By 3:14 a.m., Alyssa Monroe stops moving. Her body folds gently where she falls, one hand instinctively resting over the life inside her belly, as though she tried, even in her last second, to shield her unborn child from harm. The person who did this walks away with the same quiet certainty they arrived with, leaving nothing behind except a silence so complete it feels unnatural. And that silence is what the night shift supervisor finds minutes later. She freezes in the doorway, her breath catching in her throat as she drops to her knees and fumbles for her phone. Her voice is barely a whisper when she calls for help. She didn't go down fighting. She didn't get the chance. The hospital is never truly silent, not even at dawn. Machines hum. Doors hiss open and closed. The world keeps moving even when someone's life has just stopped. But on the morning following Alyssa Monroe's death, something hangs in the air that every nurse, every doctor, every janitor feels in their bones. A heaviness that doesn't belong in a place meant for saving lives. Word spreads fast. Grief spreads faster. Some staff members cry openly. Others sit in stunned silence. A few step away to empty hallways, holding their heads in their hands as if the shock might break them. Alyssa wasn't just a coworker. She was the one who brought warmth into rooms that felt cold. She was the one who whispered strength into new mothers who thought they couldn't push anymore. She was the one who smiled through exhaustion just to make someone else's shift a little lighter. And now she is gone, taken in a way that doesn't fit into anyone's understanding of their world. Within hours, investigators arrive, moving gently through the maternity wing, like people trying not to step on broken glass. They ask questions in soft tones. They examine the supply closet, the corridor, the angles where the cameras stop recording. And then, slowly, they begin peeling back the layers of a woman they never met. A woman who left behind threads of truth she never had the chance to speak aloud. The first real break in the case comes from something heartbreakingly simple. The items inside Alyssa's locker. Folded scrubs, a half-finished sandwich, a little sticky note that reads, "You're doing great, Mama," and inside a small zippered pouch, her diary. The officers handling it don't expect much at first. Most people journal about ordinary things, work stress, cravings, aches, little triumphs. But Alyssa's diary isn't ordinary. It becomes the voice she never shared. The fear she tried so hard to bury. The truth of her heart laid out in fragile handwriting. Page after page reveals a woman torn between two stories. The excitement of a brief love with Samer and the steady warmth that Tariq once offered her. Warmth that slowly tightened around her until it became a cage she couldn't name. The more investigators read, the more they see her unraveling in real time. I wish I knew how to shut the door on my past. I think he wants more from me than I can give. I'm scared to tell anyone. I'm scared not to. He watches me. Even when he smiles, he watches. The diary is emotional evidence, raw, intimate, filled with the kind of confessions that make detectives close the book for a moment just to breathe. But the most haunting entries come from the last week of her life. The handwriting becomes jagged, words slant off the lines, sentences cut off halfway as though she wrote them while looking over her shoulder. And hidden between the entries about fear and secrecy is something else. Something that changes the direction of the case. A timestamp, a date, and the name of the restricted file she accessed the night everything began to fall apart. Digital forensics step in next, combing through her hospital-issued devices, her phone backups, her cloud storage. At first, it looks like she barely left anything behind. No messages, no screenshots, no recordings. But when investigators dig deeper, they discover fragments, pieces, traces of things that were deleted but not fully erased. Buried inside her phone's system logs are remnants of WhatsApp messages, ones she never had the chance to save. They see late-night messages from a number linked to Tariq. Short ones, possessive ones. Questions that didn't sound like concern, they sounded like ownership. Where are you? Why didn't you respond? You're shutting me out. You don't get to hide from me. And finally, the one that freezes the entire room. We need to talk. Tonight. Investigators know instantly. This wasn't just an affair. This was fixation. When they track down the restricted file Alyssa accessed, a darker path opens. Medical records altered beyond recognition, fetal measurements rewritten, procedures the hospital isn't authorized to perform, a transfer note to a private clinic overseas, and at the bottom of one of the falsified charts, Tariq's signature. The truth Alyssa saw wasn't abstract. It wasn't symbolic. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She stumbled into the center of something that powerful people expected to remain invisible. Something involving offshore berths, wealthy clients, and medical histories wiped clean. And the man who stood to lose the most was the same man who became obsessed with her. Investigators reach out to Samer next, contacting him overseas. His response comes quickly. Shock, confusion, disbelief. He hadn't known she was pregnant. He hadn't known she was scared. His voice breaks when he hears how she died. I shouldn't have left her like that, he says. I didn't know she needed me. He provides everything he can. Alibis, timelines, communication records, all of which line up cleanly. He wasn't anywhere near the country. He wasn't a threat. He wasn't the man she feared in the end. He was the man she mourned quietly. But Tariq, he says nothing. Every attempt to contact him fails. His phone goes straight to voicemail. His hospital credentials deactivate within hours of Alyssa's death, not by the administration but manually, from an unknown device. Investigators go to his temporary residence. It's empty. His clothes are gone. His toiletries are gone. His documents are gone. Only dust remains where his life once sat. His lease agreement shows he left without notice. Airport records reveal a rapid exit, a one-way ticket purchased at 3:29 a.m., barely 15 minutes after Alyssa took her last breath. He didn't flee, he escaped. And the speed of his disappearance tells investigators everything they need to know. He was planning this, or at least, he planned what would happen if someone ever saw the wrong thing. But what ultimately shifts the direction of the case doesn't come from technology or paperwork. It comes from the one person Alyssa trusted enough to let her fear show, her closest friend on the unit, Brianna. When detectives sit her down in a small consultation room, she shakes through most of her answers. Grief, making her voice thin, shock, turning her hands cold. But then, slowly, she reveals something she'd been carrying quietly since the night Alyssa came to her apartment, eyes glassy and voice unsteady. She told me she opened something she wasn't supposed to, Brianna says, wiping her cheeks. A file, a patient file, she said, or something that looked like it. What kind of file? Investigators ask. Brianna shakes her head hard. She didn't tell me. She said she didn't understand it, only that it felt wrong. Illegal, maybe. She kept saying, I shouldn't have seen it. Her voice trembles as she continues. I asked her who it involved. She wouldn't say. She looked scared, like saying it out loud would make it real. She just kept repeating, I shouldn't have opened it. I shouldn't have opened it. The room goes still. Because this isn't a woman predicting her death. This is a woman trying desperately to understand something she stumbled into, something she thought she still had time to figure out. For the first time, investigators grasp the truth. Alyssa didn't die because she made a reckless choice. She died because she opened the wrong file and told the right person. Morning breaks over the hospital with a cruelty no one is prepared for. Sunlight pours through the maternity windows, touching bassinets, warming newborn cheeks, landing softly on the very floors where Alyssa once moved like she was part of the heartbeat of the building. Life continues. But for everyone who loved her, the world feels wrong today. Split open, unbalanced, permanently altered. Her locker is still sealed with crime scene tape when her coworkers gather in the hallway. No one speaks loudly. No one moves quickly. It's as though the whole floor is afraid that any sudden sound might shatter the fragile silence hanging over them. Someone places a single white rose against the metal door. Another adds a small sticky note that reads, "We love you, Alyssa." Others join, one by one, turning her locker into a memorial of grief and disbelief. Photos taped beside flowers, tiny baby socks placed carefully at the base, nurses hugging each other as tears spill down their faces. Alyssa was one of the good ones. The kind who made others softer just by existing. And now all they have left is the echo of her kindness. At her family's home, grief settles like a fog. Her father sits on the porch, hands trembling as he holds a photograph of Alyssa at 16, her hair tied back, her smile bright and full of unbroken dreams. He stares at it for so long, the edges begin to curl under his fingertips. He whispers her name like it's a prayer he failed to protect. He blames himself for not insisting she move back home, for not seeing the fear behind her last few phone calls, for every moment he brushed off her tired voice as work stress. Her mother can't bring herself to enter Alyssa's room. The crib Alyssa bought sits half-assembled, tiny blankets folded neatly beside it. A baby name list is taped to the wall: Eli, Myra, Jacob, Lila. When her mother finally steps inside, she collapses onto the floor, clutching a pair of unopened baby mittens to her chest as she sobs into the carpet. Alyssa's family doesn't just mourn her, they mourn the grandchild they waited for. They mourn the future they imagined. They mourn the final weeks of her life, the ones she spent scared, confused, and alone. The investigation grows quickly, then ugly. Detectives interview dozens of staff members, review hours of camera footage, and collect every device Alyssa used in her final months. Her diary, already flagged by early investigators, becomes the emotional spine of the entire case. Each entry paints a clearer picture of her unraveling. The man she once trusted, the way he began hovering over her, the fear she never voiced publicly. Digital forensics add more weight. Deleted WhatsApp messages reveal a pattern of pressure. Her phone logs show repeated contact attempts from Tariq. Her cloud backups contain traces of screenshots she tried to save, screenshots someone later erased. And the restricted file she accessed becomes the investigation's turning point. The deeper detectives dig, the clearer the picture becomes. Offshore patients, falsified records, undocumented procedures, wealthy clients whose names circle quietly among international networks. It's the kind of scandal that doesn't just ruin careers, it topples institutions. Alyssa never knew the full scope. She only saw a corner of it. But it was enough. Enough for Tariq to panic. Enough for him to erase. Enough for him to flee. When detectives search his temporary housing, they find the apartment swept clean. The suitcase indentation is still on the mattress. The trash bin is empty, wiped, and dry. The closet holds a single plastic hanger. Not a toothbrush, not a sock, not a scrap of paper remains. He left with purpose. He left with strategy. He left knowing exactly what he had done. Airport timestamps confirm the horror. He boarded a flight out of the country just hours after Alyssa's body was discovered, traveling under a reservation purchased minutes before takeoff. It wasn't spontaneous, it wasn't fear-driven, it was planned. A man doesn't run like that unless he has somewhere safe to land, and friends powerful enough to hide him when he arrives. Samer flies back for questioning once, sitting with investigators for nearly 8 hours. His hands shake as he talks about Alyssa. The late-night conversations, the connection he didn't treat seriously enough, the abrupt goodbye he now regrets in ways that break him. When detectives mention the pregnancy, he closes his eyes for a long moment, grief carving lines into his face. "I was stupid," he says. "I was selfish. But I didn't hurt her. I swear to you, I didn't hurt her." And the evidence supports his words. His passport stamps, his flight records, his verified location. He wasn't the danger Alyssa felt closing in. He was the heartbreak she carried quietly, not the threat that killed her. Despite the mounting evidence against Tariq, the digital traces, the diary entries, the restricted file, the deleted messages, none of it brings him back within reach. International warrants are issued, embassies are notified, alerts are circulated across borders, but every lead grows cold within hours. Every trail ends in a country with no extradition agreement. Every attempt to locate him is met with silence, shielded by a network that knows how to disappear people who need to stay hidden. Justice doesn't just stumble, it evaporates. And the world starts to accept a truth too painful to swallow. The man who killed Alyssa Monroe is gone. The hospital holds a memorial service 2 weeks later. Nurses gather around the locker they refuse to empty. Someone hangs Alyssa's name badge from a ribbon. Someone else tapes her ultrasound photo to the door. A tiny profile, a hand curled near the chin, the soft outline of a future that never arrived. As the room grows still, Brianna steps forward and places her palm against the image, tears slipping quietly down her cheeks. She whispers, "She deserved better. So much better." The camera would linger there, on that ultrasound photo, on the note cards, on the flowers, before fading into the memory of a woman who walked into a night shift and never walked back out. On the locker door, written in Alyssa's own handwriting on a small blue sticky note, are the words she wrote long before she knew how far danger had sunk into her life. "I was scared. I just didn't know how much." That is the truth she never got to outrun. And that is where her story ends, not with justice, but with the ache of everything she deserved and everything she never got the chance to see. Alyssa Monroe walked into every shift hoping to make someone's once worst night a little easier. She held newborns before their parents could. She whispered strength into women who thought they had none left. She believed in healing, even when she couldn't find it for herself. But the world doesn't always protect the people who protect us. Alyssa tried to outrun her fear quietly, adjusting her walk, her routes, her routines, hoping it would be enough. Hoping the threat she felt tightening around her would loosen with time. She never imagined the danger living closest to her heart would be the one she wouldn't escape. Tonight, her locker sits sealed, her ultrasound photo still taped to the door. Her story now living where she can't. For every woman who's ever felt watched, for every worker who's ever sensed something was wrong but didn't know how to speak it, for every family who's buried a daughter with questions instead of closure. Alyssa's story is the reminder. Sometimes the people we trust become the very shadows we fear. And sometimes the justice we hope for slips through borders, through systems, through fingers, leaving only the truth behind. And the hope that one day, someone will pick it up and finish what she couldn't. This wasn't just a tragedy. This was a warning. Before you go, take a moment to honor Alyssa by keeping her story alive. If this case moved you, if her voice stayed with you the way it stayed with us, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this video so more people see what she never got the chance to say out loud. And drop a comment below, even a few words. Because every voice added to hers makes it harder for stories like this to be buried. And before you scroll away, sit with this one question. How many people walk beside us every day, hiding a darkness we never see until it's too late? And what would you do if the truth was sitting right in front of you, quietly asking to be noticed?